All right, welcome back to the channel. My name is Coach Jordan Hardgrave. Today we're going to be reading an email. It's not really a long email. It's pretty short, but I think it does a really good job at capturing depersonalization, realization, and some of the ways that that can manifest in somebody's life. I really want to help spread some education about this because you can't even begin to heal unless you first know what you're dealing with. So don't take this as a diagnosis or anything like that. Make sure to seek out a licensed mental professional for that. But this is for educational purposes because I'll tell you, I remember the first time that somebody told me what depersonalization realization was, I was having like 20 panic attacks a day, constant DPDR 24/7 for over a year. And I didn't know even what a panic attack was, but I certainly didn't know what depersonalization realization was. And I remember I bought this book, and it technically was a book about acceptance. And it had this one little bitty paragraph where it talked about what it described as unreality. And it might have said the words depersonalization realization, but it described the symptoms, and it said that it was a symptom of anxiety, which, even though that's not accurate, watch my most recent short video where I'm doing a series on DPDR myths, and that I think is either myth 1 or myth 2, that depersonalization realization is a symptom of anxiety. Check that out because it explains why it's not. It's actually a symptom of traumatic stress, overwhelming stress. DPDR are trauma coping mechanisms. Basically, your brain thinks you're about to be eaten by a lion, and your brain is trying to separate you from either your body, depersonalization, or the material world, derealization. But with that being said, I was just so happy to see that I wasn't going crazy and that this was connected to the nervous system, that it didn't even matter that it was the wrong information. Now, it technically did matter in the long term because I didn't understand how much buildup was in my body. And that's also another problem, is that book was so much about mental acceptance that it didn't teach me interoception, which is the experience of the embodied self, re-experiencing my body, befriending my body, releasing the tension, adrenaline, and emotion from the body, setting up boundaries to make sure that I wasn't driving my body into the ground. And so years later, my symptoms came back, even though acceptance helped me tremendously in the short term. And I'm not against that. I teach my clients to invite in their symptoms, but that is not enough. It's like peeling an onion. There's a lot of layers to this. So let's go ahead and read this email. By the way, I am like 3 days where I'm feeling pretty much 100% after a sickness that lasted, I think, about a month and a half. Truly one of the worst sicknesses I've ever faced. It had to have been COVID at least. I think it might have been something else on top of that. But anyway, if you hear me kind of, sniffling or coughing a little bit, and even there's just a slight delay in my ability to process things because of the sickness, but I should be able to articulate this quite well, but we'll see. All right. The subject line: can't even recognize my own reflection. Let's read the email. I don't know how to explain this to anyone without sounding crazy. This morning, I looked at the mirror, and for a solid 10 seconds, I had no idea who I was looking at. My own face, my eyes, my mouth felt like they belonged to somebody else. I traced my jawline with my finger, trying to force familiarity, but the more I stared, the more foreign I became. So this is part of how your brain is trying to protect you through dissociation. So dissociation is an umbrella term that just means to sever or separate. It comes from a Latin root word that means to sever or separate. So it's really kind of your brain's superpower. So whenever you're facing really uncomfortable experiences in your body, in your life, your brain has a way to create some distance. Almost think of dissociation as like a car airbag, right? It's there to distance you, to ensure that you don't experience as much pain. And it has a lot of different ways that it can manifest too. But whenever you reach a state of traumatic, overwhelming stress, one of the ways that it can manifest is in the form of something called depersonalization. You feel detached from your body. And then derealization, you feel like everything that you're looking at is fake, dreamlike, like there's a wall of glass between you and reality. I experienced both of these symptoms at one point in time, 24/7. And then there was a long period of time where it was off and on, but truly the scariest thing that I've ever been through. But it was my brain trying to help me, and it's your brain trying to help you. But this can manifest in the form of you look in the mirror, which is going to reflect your physical body. And if you feel detached from your physical body, if you don't have that connection, that's going to be projected onto the mirror. And I remember I would look at the mirror, and it was like I was staring at one of my brothers, which he kind of looks similar to me. Some people think that we're like twins or something, except he actually can grow a beard. I kind of got Joe Dirt facial hair, doesn't really grow in right here, and all that stuff. Which is funny enough. My first job was a janitor, so you technically could say I'm pretty much like Joe Dirt or Harry Potter. I got the Harry Potter scar. If you can see that right there, Voldemort tried to get me, he couldn't. Nobody laughed at that. Okay, moving on. No, but where was I going with that? Oh yeah. My brother, sorry, got off track there. But I looked like my brother, and my mustache seemed off, and you can't describe it with words, but it was so uncomfortable for me. I literally started to brush my teeth like this. And I remember once I got over symptoms, I still had trained my body to brush my teeth like this because I hated looking at the reflection in my mirror. And it made me very, very stressed out. And so this is something that I see with my clients all the time. This is very, very common, very, very normal for depersonalization realization, and it will go away once we get your body out of a state of overwhelming stress. And so this person says, I tried to kind of trace my jawline to force familiarity. That's the thing, is like, if you're trying to force a connection without directly getting your body out of a state of overwhelming stress, you're not really going to see many results. You're not actually dealing with the root. I get what you're trying to do. I would stare at the sky and I'd be like, I'm connected. I'm connected. I would stare at my hands. I'm like, these are my hands. I am connected and all these things. But unless you actually release all that buildup in the body, it's not going to do much, if anything. It's like my brain refuses to let me connect with myself. Exactly. It's technically, Bessel van der Kolk in the book The Body Keeps a Score calls it the mohawk of self-awareness. So there's a series of brain structures that are responsible for us feeling connected to ourself, to our body, and to the material world. And whenever you're in a trauma state, because of how your brain responds during a state of traumatic stress, it's shutting down these brain regions. And he shows that in that book, by the way. And to be clear, that book isn't a book on recovery. It's a really great book for education, though. Skip the first chapter if you read it. That was super triggering. But anyway, that's a wonderful book that Bessel van der Kolk wrote, because it shows the importance of befriending the body. I catch my reflection in windows and get this jolt of fear, like I'm seeing a stranger imitating me. It happens in photos too. Oh yeah, I remember looking at photo books and I was like, who's that guy? It was very, very, very stressful. Even recent photos, I didn't feel connected to them. I recognize the clothes, but not the person. No, just blank, just wrong. So anyway, if you have dealt with this, let me know in the comments below and write out your experience with it, because that's one thing that is so important, is for people to see other people's description of this and to see how many people are going through this, because I think people are not aware of how many people experience this symptom. So figuring out what it is really important. Again, don't take this as a diagnosis. This is just education, but figuring out what it is. And then secondly, figuring out how common that it is, my gosh, it is so encouraging for people. So if you've ever struggled with that, looking in the mirror, feeling like you're looking at a stranger, comment below, write out, which you don't have to. I mean, this is just if you wanted to encourage other people, but I really think that it would encourage a lot of people, okay? And I will tell you, I went through this and I don't deal with this anymore. I look in the mirror and I see Jordan. Now, I'm not, like, I don't hate myself. I mean, I have self-love and stuff or whatever, but like, I'm not sitting here looking at David Beckham or anything, even though he is kind of one of my fashion icons, which clearly it's not really working out that well. But I still look in the mirror and I feel normal. I feel connected. I look at this giant, huge nose. You might as well call me Doug. Anybody watch Doug before? Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, that was one of my favorite shows as a kid. But what I'm saying is, like, I don't deal with this anymore. And yet it was such a dominant part of my life at one point in time that I literally created a procedural memory, which is a physiological procedure for different sensory environments, where, okay, in front of the mirror, look down, brush my teeth. Right now, I look up and I'm like, there's Jordan, right? So anyway, by the way, a lot of people think, as I make fun of my nose, that I must be like, insecure. No, I'm actually so secure that I can make fun of myself and it doesn't bother me, just to let you know. And, I like, make fun of my facial. I just think it's funny. Maybe it's not funny, but I think it is. Anyway, I hope this helped you. Click the like button, subscribe, join this family if you're struggling with anxiety, panic attacks, obsessive thoughts and compulsions, depersonalization, realization, complex trauma. These are all the subjects that we tackle on here. And I hope that this channel can be a light for you. Okay, that is it. And oh yeah, we've also got a free masterclass, the 5 shifts to heal from anxiety, panic, and depersonalization realization. There's a link below. You can check that out. Hopefully that will help you too. That's it. I hope you have a good day.